bourbon blended cask strength. Let's get into it. Hello everybody, and welcome to the Whiskey Dictionary, where I do the research to try to teach you a little something about what you're drinking. I hope you guys are all doing okay with your extended home time period thing that we're all going through here. And I had heard that high ABV alcohol, specifically over 60%, can be used as a sanitizer. So it's only kind of true. Certainly don't use whiskey for it. But it did get me thinking about cask strength whiskeys. And I started looking into Barrell Craft Spirits, which makes blended bourbons. And what they do is they take about 60 or so barrels and they create a batch out of them. Now they're taking these barrels from all over the place, but mostly Tennessee, Kentucky, Indiana, yes, MGP. But they're taking all of these very specific flavors and they're blending them together similar to what blended scotches do. And because of that, they're able to take pretty much anything. They've got all these connections to a million different distilleries and they're able to get good stuff. And they've won a lot of awards for doing this. So I want to talk a little bit about the distillery. So this guy named Joe Beatrice, back in the 90s, he was a tech guy. And he kind of, was part of that whole boom and decided to do something different. So while he was running his tech company though, he was a home brewer. And one day he went to a distillery and tried some whiskey straight out of a barrel. And for those of us that have tried that, we know it can be a life-changing experience. And if you happen to be the entrepreneurial type, you might take that experience and go turn it into a business, like Joe did. So he ended up starting up his own company. Now, a lot of people in the early 2000s kind of saw the way that craft beers were going, and knew that the whiskey boom was coming. Smart people. And Joe was one of these guys. So Joe instead of making his own distillery like a lot of people do, he made his own blending house, if you want to call it that. And he hired a guy. Now, I don't normally talk too much about master distillers here unless they're rock stars, but Trip Stimson, he is a guy who is ex-Brown foreman. He has helped many distilleries build their own distilleries, from a consulting standpoint, and he is the master blender, although master distiller is his current title, of Barrell Craft Spirits. And he helps to put all of these together. So both Joe and Trip work on creating these batches. Now, most of these batches have won quite a few medals. And what I have here today is batch 18, which is admittedly a little bit old. This was back from 2019. However, it won a ton of awards. And I thought this would be a good one to do. Now, I also have over here the Dovetail, and we're going to talk about the Dovetail. This is actually, believe it or not, this is going to be the first non-whiskey that I've ever covered on this channel, if you don't count my Fireball episode that I did last April 1st for April Fool's Day. But Dovetail is technically not a whiskey because of some of the way that it's made. And we'll talk about that too. They also produce rye, they make random different types of whiskeys, all different kinds, and because of the way that they make these whiskeys, they're able to experiment fairly easily. They don't have to take time to age their own wheated bourbon, for example, if you wanted to maybe explore that. Instead, they can just get it from somebody else. So they're able to churn out these batches very quickly. They also have the Dovetail, which is as I mentioned, not exactly a whiskey because of some of the way that they finish it. However, it's still very, very good and very highly sought after. So let's go ahead and do some nosing and tasting of the regular Barrell Bourbon. As I mentioned, this is batch 18. The newest one is going to be 23, I believe, although it depends on when you're watching this. So let's go ahead and give this a nose. Cheers. Or I guess nose. That is just a wonderful nose. It's very, it's not, let's see, this is a little over 55%, I forget exactly, 55.78%. Hope you can forgive my lack of precision on the less than 1%. So 55.78%. And the nose on here, it smells as if you have just a nice heavy lower proof. There's absolutely no alcohol burn here and just very good. So some of the items that you're getting out of the nose here, some of the smells are pineapple, and I would say pineapple is actually pretty forefront for me. And then you have mango, which also very good. You tend to get tropical fruits all kind of at the same time. There's specific bacteria that produce that type of smell. I would also say there's kind of like a dark, like a I don't want to say raisin, maybe plum or possibly like a red grape going on there. So that's really good. Cinnamon and vanilla are going to be my go-tos for the nose here. So one thing that's nice is you can really pick apart this whiskey. It doesn't, even though it's a blend, those noses don't blend together. There are very different smells that you're going to get if you're trying to find them. So if you're doing this along with me, see if you can pick those all out. All of the different batches are going to obviously be different, but Barrell Bourbon overall has a general concept behind it. So my guess is these notes would be somewhat relevant to whichever batch you happen to be drinking. So let's go ahead and, if I can, I just want to thank everybody out there who is working outside of their own house during this time in whatever capacity you are, whether you deem yourself an essential employee or not. You guys are helping the world to continue to be some form of normalcy. So thank you. Cheers. I'm glad after a toast like that this tastes good. Wouldn't be bad if I just did a spit take, right? So overall, you're going to be getting a lot of tastes of those tropical fruits in here. This is very tropical fruity. This has a lot of character to it that I really, really like. So pineapple again, very much so. Actually, I'm gonna say that mango again, although that's a little bit less than in the nose. However, I'm gonna go a different way with this and also say that I'm getting some citrus fruits as well, like oranges and lemons. And I'm gonna take another sip. You know what I'm actually getting a little bit? Almost like a pina colada, which is a little weird. So there's like some coconut going on there. There's a lot going on there. And the alcohol content, although high, is not overbearing. It settles in really, really nicely. Now, I do have some water here. I'm gonna try to, if I can think about it, or if I feel like it's gonna be a good idea, I'm gonna try to remember to add water whenever I'm drinking something that's a little higher proof. So I'm doing 4 drops in here. I'm gonna give it just a minute. I actually did not really do this before filming, so this is an experiment for me too. So the water appears to have brought down some of the nose. So as far as the nose goes, I would not recommend adding water, but let's go ahead and give it a taste. Cheers. There's almost like a rum influence now that I've added a little bit of water. The water brings out the cinnamon a lot more as well. There's virtually no vanilla in the taste. Actually, oddly enough, just a couple drops of water really make a big difference. I shouldn't say oddly enough, we all can relate to how water affects whiskey, but there's a significant change in the taste with a little bit of water added. So I would recommend doing both. In kind of a bit of reversal here, adding water seems to give it more of a drying tannin that you typically, when I refer to like a barrel or an oak flavor, that seems to be coming out a little bit more here. So you get a lot less of the fruit and a lot more of that cinnamon barrel tannins and just kind of that more classic heavy oaked bourbon type of notes. So interesting. Put that to the side. Let's go ahead and bust out the Dovetail. Now, for those of you that hadn't seen this recently, I have these new toppers for whiskey glasses. These are unique to my channel. So far, nobody else is selling these. And these are glass, and they fit right into the Glencairn. You can turn it right upside down, no big deal, but mostly it's just a cool thing. It's there to keep the aroma in, similar to our challenge coins. However, in this case, it's a little nicer. So, put that to the side. The Dovetail. Let's talk about the Dovetail. Now, the Dovetail is a little bit different. As I mentioned, it couldn't be called a whiskey because of some of the way that they word this, and I'm realizing I'm forgetting what's on the label for it right now, so forgive me. Whiskey finished in rum, port, and Dun Vineyards Cabernet barrels, and this is 62.17%. Now, the reason I'm reviewing this, despite it not being a whiskey, is it started as a bourbon, and then they decided they wanted to do a little bit different stuff with it. And they finished it like crazy. So much so that they couldn't classify it as a whiskey anymore. Oh well, doesn't matter. It tastes amazing. And if you get a chance to try this one, I'll just tell you right before even going into these, I think you'll really like it. So let's go ahead and give this a nose. So there is a much different nose to this. It's a little funky. It's a little, what's the word? Like grassy, not earthy so much, but it's got almost like a, this is the classic whiskey reviewer. It smells a little bit like moldy hay, but in a good way. So, a little bit of leather in there. There's actually a lot going on here. Maybe some apricot, but there's definitely way heavier notes in here. I think I said leather. Little oily, maybe a little bit of like a walnut kind of thing. Definitely some sort of nuttiness in there as well. Very, very dramatically different than this. So let's go ahead and give it a sip. Cheers. Now that is every bit the 62%. That one, it still drinks pretty smooth, but you definitely feel and taste the alcohol a little bit more in this one. It's got a bit of a bite to it, but the finish on this is incredible. I've had several other whiskeys that I would think that kind of make me think of them. The Signet had a really good finish. A lot of the higher ABV bourbons, like a lot of the Bookers, kind of have a really good finish. This one has a great finish of just dark cocoa. And hold on, I need to know this. I started talking so much that I kind of forgot. Hold on. Dark cocoa really comes across, and I mean something like, when I say dark cocoa, I'm picturing cocoa powder that you might cook with. Maybe it's not dark cocoa, whatever, it doesn't matter, but like cocoa powder, something that's very like a bittersweet kind of chocolate, but a little darker. I don't know. Hopefully you guys will understand if you try this. Some of the other tastes that I'm getting are raisins, plums, definitely picking up a nutty note in there. I won't even say a note, just nutty, like a walnut, something very earthy. And in general, a heaviness to this that is really good. It's funny. It's like sitting right inside my lip here, like tingling my gums. Oh, that's so good. This is really good. I'm going to go for a third sip. I don't know that I've ever done that. I'm going to add a little bit of water here, because I do think that will help. Now, what I'm surprised by is that although this is kind of from the same company, it really is a very dramatically different flavor than that. And I'm a little surprised that there really was no tropical anything going on. Again, the water kind of mutes the nose a little bit. Going a little deeper. Give me one more. No, not getting too much additional out of the nose. Let's go ahead and try the taste. Cheers. So for both drams tonight, I did 4 drops. I typically do 3, but these are a little higher ABV, and just felt like doing 4 tonight. So the 4 drops here cut that ABV pretty significantly. And, well, maybe not physically cut the ABV, but the taste, the way that it tingles your tongue and your gums and all of that stuff, it calms it down a little bit. And you do start picking up a little bit, maybe, of that tropical, although I might just be looking for it. So I'd be interested, if you guys have tried the Dovetail, absolutely please tell me your thoughts in the comments below, because I would love to have you help me evaluate this whiskey. This one is a challenge for me. When you're dealing with rum and red wine, and what was the other thing? Port. Jeez. I mean, you got a lot going on there. That's just a absolute insanity mixing the 3 of those together. As far as the port, no, actually, after I looked at the port, I could see that because there was I started kind of saying a little bit with like raisins there. I actually am going to say it's more like prunes. It's a heavier, more robust taste, and it's got. How do you describe the difference between a raisin and a prune? Anybody who's tried the two can really tell you that there is a dramatic difference. Raisins tend to be sweeter, but the difference between the two of those, I would aim more towards prunes in a good way. So. Let's go overall. Now, I have 2 bottles of whiskey here, obviously, and both of them are very good. If I had to pick one over the other, though, I would probably pick this because it matches my personal flavor profile preferences a little bit more so. And I guess I only have one bone to pick with this whiskey, and it's that I don't think they're doing themselves any favors with the labels. These don't stand out on a shelf. The shape of the bottle kind of does, but the labels themselves, they're not great, and I see people pass it up all the time. I will also say, though, I love their logo, and I'll put it up there. Their logo, enough that I actually bought a little pin off their website, so I thought that was pretty cool. I think that I wish that they would kind of redo their labels, because although it gives the impression that you're doing these small batches, and everyone does have a handwritten thing on it. You know, this is batch number 18, bottle 4894, 11 years aged, proof alcohol, ABV, whatever you want on there. I just wish that they would do something different with the label, because I think too many people pass this up as being just another bourbon on the shelf. So take that for what it's worth if you guys happen to be watching. Now, that being said, one more thing I want to mention is that I love that they do these batches. I love pretty much any whiskey that does multiple batches, although for me as a whiskey reviewer, it's a bit of a nightmare if I actually want to cover them all. But for you guys as a shopper, as a consumer, and as somebody who watches somebody like me, having multiple batches per year is awesome because you get to try all kinds of different stuff, and you can buy a brand that you like and always be getting something new. Now, that being said, if you really like what you had, it might be a little harder to get it later. But anyway, that does it for this episode of the Whiskey Dictionary. Thank you very much for joining me. And be sure to check out the website. These things are absolutely, people always say this kind of thing. These are literally flying off the shelves. I have sold so many of these lately, and I have a limited supply. So check out the whiskeydictionary.com, and also check out the Patreon. By the time that you see this video, I'm going to have rehashed all of my tiers. And there's a lot of good stuff in there. And generally, I would like to do some more cool stuff with the channel. And if you're thinking about becoming a patron, there's some good stuff for you, but also you can help to support this channel. So if you find value and you could help out, then that would be wonderful. Otherwise, I hope you guys are all doing well, and I hope that you continue to have a great rest of your day. So have a good night. Cheers.